Okay, is the microphone working? Sound system working? No audio. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, sound system works? Yes. We'll go with yes. I heard a yes. Thank you all very much. Thank you for coming on such short notice. It's my pleasure to announce today that we have settled a 4-year dispute dealing with the Long Island Railroad labor unions and an agreement with the railroad and the MTA. This is a compromise by both parties after 4 long years. Compromise by definition means that neither side gets everything that they wanted to get, but it means that we reach an agreement and we can move forward. The Long Island Railroad workers are valued employees of the railroad. They work dangerous jobs in many places, and they are valued employees, and we respect them and we respect the service. And we want to be fair as New Yorkers to the employees. At the same time, the MTA is a public entity. The funds that the MTA has come from the fare riders and from the taxpayers. And obviously, the economy of the MTA is very important to us. We want to make sure that the fares don't go up. We want to make sure that the MTA has the funds necessary to do the capital repairs that they need to do to keep the system safe. And that was the balance. We wanted fair compensation for valued employees, and we wanted to make sure that the MTA didn't need to raise fares and had the funds necessary to manage the system long term. And I believe that we did that. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the MTA chairman, Tom Prendergast, who I think showed outstanding leadership in this situation, which was difficult and complex. That's why it went on for 4 years. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Anthony Simon from the United Transportation Union and his colleagues in the labor movement, who I believe were fair and reasonable. Anthony, on a personal note, is a tenacious advocate. He's aggressive. I respect that. But at the end of the day, he was not reckless and he was not irresponsible. And I think it's fair to say that all of the labor representatives fought diligently for the best contract they could get for their employees, but they were also very aware of the responsibility of the LIRR. The Long Island Railroad in many ways is unique. Long Island, by its configuration, doesn't allow many options for commuters. And if the LIRR goes down, all of Long Island suffers to the tune of tens of millions of dollars per day, not to mention the personal hardship, not to mention the safety concerns that it would have occurred if we actually had a strike. So I congratulate both these gentlemen personally. I congratulate all the representatives of the unions, who I believe, again, represented their constituents well, but also fairly recognizing the responsibility of the LIRR. With that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Tom Prendergast for his comments.
Echoing what the governor has said, the agreement reached today provides a fair and reasonable contract. Wages that our employees deserve, hardworking employees that need to be able to stay in where they need to be financially, and in a way that protects the commuter as well as the long-term fiscal stability of the MTA, which is exceptionally important to us. He asked Anthony and I and the other labor leaders sitting here today to keep our mind on what is most important, the needs of the customer and meeting our own individual responsibilities. In order to do that, it required a compromise on the part of all parties. Because you may not be able to achieve exactly what you want, but in the spirit of getting to a deal that's fair and reasonable, takes care of the needs of the employees, protects the commuters, and MTA's long-term financial stability, that is what's required. And that's what we were able to accomplish.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to Anthony Simon from the United Transportation Union.
Thank you, Governor. First, let me say a special thanks to Governor Cuomo for stepping up, and at a time when we really needed a leader to step up and get involved in the negotiations, a no-nonsense leader who knew what it took to get this deal done as well as Mr. Prendergast here. This was about the riders. This was definitely about the riders. The labor leaders here today have said that. I could not have done it without these great leaders that we work side by side with. We cared about the riding public. We cared about the financial stability of the railroad, as well as our members and their financial stability. This definitely is a fair contract. It's a compromise by all parties to make sure that we continue down the road of a safe and reliable system. And we will continue to do that until we leave this agency. Every one of us in this room always believed that we can get to a deal and protect the riding public. It was a long road. It was a tough road. But again, thank you to the great leadership of Governor Cuomo and the membership that we have behind us. We were able to come to an agreement that is definitely a ratifiable, fair agreement.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Questions, comments?
What changed since Monday when Tom described there being a wide gulf between the two sides, and Anthony said that they were at total impasse? So where was the compromise for? Where in the contract?
Time and reasonableness and many hours of discussion and flexibility by both Mr. Simon and Mr. Prendergast. And when I say Mr. Simon, I also mean the other 7 unions that were part of this agreement. There's no doubt there was a very wide gulf that had to be crossed. And the good news is they did, and that's what we congratulate both of them for. Basically, the terms of the agreement, to simplify it somewhat, is the Presidential Emergency Board had voted twice for a certain set of wages and benefits for the current employees. The settlement is based on those PEB decisions. The question then became, how do you pay for it, right? As Mr. Simon said, as Mr. Prendergast said, we wanted to make sure the fares didn't go up, and we want to make sure that the system has the money to operate. So how do you pay for those additional wages, benefits, et cetera? And there are health care savings that all employees will contribute to. And for new hires, there are wage progression and a pension plan and health care savings. And those savings will allow the MTA to pay for the PEB settlement. That's it, basically in a nutshell. Is that a fair statement, gentlemen?
It's a fair statement.
So what were the last sessions that either side did that?
You know, it doesn't happen that way, really. It sort of all happens at once, or it doesn't. There's no one term I've found. There are a number of open issues, and then when and if you're willing to reach an agreement, then you sort of trade off a number of items. And that's what happened here. You had wage progression issues, you had pension cost issues, health care issues, and PEB recommendations for the current employees. So it was sort of all or nothing, right? When you're willing to reach an agreement, then you trade off the individual items, and that's what happened here. Do we want to go through that?
Well, the increase in salary is 17%. The other issues, we're gonna have to reduce the terms. The labor groups have to be able to explain them to the employees, and it's very important that we get that clear, because these contracts have to be ratified.
The PEB recommendation was 17% for the current employees. The question became, how do you pay for it without raising fares and without jeopardizing the capital plan for the MTA? That's where savings had to be identified, and they were primarily identified in the areas of health care costs for all employees, and then for new employees, wage progression, pension cost, and health costs.
How long is the contract for?
Hopefully for a long, long time, because I don't want to do this again. How long is it for?
Six and a half years.
6.5 years.
This deal puts no additional pressure on the fares. Our financial plan, we've been very clear that what we're committing to, and it hasn't changed for the last 3 reports, and that's that we're keeping fare increases to the cost of the rate of inflation. This deal puts no additional pressure on the fares.
So will new employees be paying more towards their health care and pension costs than current employees? And will there be a 10-year wage progression for new employees?
At this time, we're going to have to defer to make sure that our ratification and our members can be notified and that we can explain it to our members before it goes out to the public. We want to be able to ratify the deal. There has been some changes to new employees while current employees have maintained. So we will hold off on that until the ratification and before we get into the details.
Dr. Cuomo, could you tell us what the message is to long-run commuters that suffered through, a lot of agita the last couple of weeks, wondering whether or not they're going to have their first?
Marcia Kramer, did you use the word agita, Marcia Kramer? Do you really know what agita means, Marcia Kramer? You just there was a high degree of agita over the past few days. For those of you who know what agita is, it's sort of like tsurus, the Italians would say. The good news is there could have been a lot more agita next week. And next week, if there was a strike, it would have been a really problematic situation on the highest level. So this is very good news. But at this time, I'm going to ask the gentleman before me to sign the agreement. Not that I don't trust their handshake, but it's always good to have a signature after what we went through. And I'll ask Mr. Prendergast first. And I am signing, but only as a witness that they signed. Congratulations, gentlemen. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Your role in this has evolved over the weeks. Certainly, earlier you indicated Congress may be involved and not. Even your wording has changed a bit over the past few days. Why not start at the point that you started from today, saying you were cautiously optimistic and that it would have been a hostage situation?
I don't think I said that yesterday. I don't think I ever said words, anything like it was a hostage situation.
Or would have been held, a strike would hold Long Island hostage?
I don't think I said that either. What is the question?
What do you see your role in?
Yeah, well, I am the governor's role, I believe. The MTA is a separate independent entity. I appoint people to the board. Other elected officials appoint people to the board. The mayor appoints people to the board, et cetera. And the board runs the MTA. Tom Prendergast runs the MTA. They were in negotiations. I am not a labor negotiator for the MTA. I'm not a labor negotiator for any authority or any agency. This government has many labor contracts all over the state. If I were to get involved in every labor negotiation, I would be doing nothing else but being a full-time labor negotiator. At the same time, if there is a crisis and I can be of help, then I believe that's my role. And when we got to the point that we were at last night, where we were on the cusp of an impending strike, which would have been highly problematic for Long Island, I believe that was the right time for the governor to step in.
Was your experience in the 94 incident, was that in your mind?
No. I have done a number of labor negotiations as governor over the past 3.5 years. I've done labor negotiations in other aspects of my life, so I'm familiar with the terrain. The question is, when is it appropriate and when is it necessary for the governor to get involved? I have a day job also, so if I don't have to get involved, better I don't. But again, I thought in these circumstances, it merited it.
Last question?
We will put our ratification out, we will start our information meetings, and we should hope to have it ratified by August 15th.
When will the board vote on it, Tom?
We'd bring it to the board in September.
Governor, since the framework is essentially what the Presidential Emergency Board recommended, shouldn't the MTA have agreed to do months ago? I mean, that recommendation was
Actually, no. And you only have half of the equation. The half of the equation is the recommendation of the PEB. The big question was, how do you pay for it? Well, you could raise fares. No. Well, you could eliminate part of the capital budget and not repair the railroad. No. You had to find the savings to fund the PEB. And that was the entire question in the negotiation. Where does the money come from? If you wanted to afford the PEB for current employees, where do you find the 17%? And that question then shifted to what savings can you find from all employees? And this has savings in healthcare costs from all employees. And where can you find savings from new employees, people who have not yet been hired, but who could be hired in the future? And that's where savings were identified in wage progressions, pension plan costs, and healthcare costs. And that helped offset the cost of the PEB. But that was the art of the transaction in this agreement. You had to find the savings. Everyone understood what the PEB was saying. The question after the PEB was, how do you pay for it? Which is normally the hard question in this business. How do you pay for it?
The MTA's last offer to the unions was the basis for which we were looking at different ways to be able to fund it. And the governor has articulated what those ways were, but it is not exactly the same. We said it wasn't a last and final offer, and we used that as the basis. The union also came forward with other things for us to look for, and that's how we were able to come up with the compromise that all parties made to be able to provide the funding we needed to protect the commuters and provide for long-term financial stability. We will reduce two terms, we always do, for the union to understand and for the board, because the board has to vote at what the actual cost is. And we'll work that out, and that'll be part of what's voted on. But this is a contract we know the board will support.
Sir? In my opinion, there was no deal reached until the contract was signed. I have been through this too many times before. You know, you're not there until you go over the goal line. 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards doesn't matter. So literally moments before we came out here, did we have have we seen the paper and the agreement and the terms? But I think it's fair to say the most intensive period of negotiation was from 6 o'clock last evening, I guess, until late last night, and then resuming early this morning and concluding just before we came here. Late. I was too bleary-eyed to actually look at the watch, but it was late. Did anybody Skype? I don't know what they do on their personal time. They weren't Skyping with me, and I don't want to know if anybody was Skyping. No Skyping. He can take his vacation to Italy. I hope he enjoys it. I'm a tad envious, tell you the truth.
Anthony, you said that the concessions that you were worried about was that was quality future. Does this deal take away those worries?
Yes, it does. It was a compromise. We feel that it wasn't the magnitude, and that's what a compromise is all about. So we're very comfortable that our membership will support it, as well as all the union leaders here support it as well.
I mean, was there any kind of a deal sweetener, something that made the concessions, pensions and healthcare, wage concessions more palatable?
Yes, there was one deal sweetener that I think put us over the end. I promised that I would keep the press conference very, very short. And with that, thank you very much. Pleasure. Thank you.